All right, well, it's final and official. The Eagles just lost 24-17 to the Washington Commanders in a game where if they simply beat one of the worst teams in the league, they would have gotten the 2 seed. And what does that mean for the 2 seed? Well, it means that when you presumably win your wild card game, that means you have a home game in the divisional round. But of course, the Eagles decided that resting their starters on offense and defense was more important than winning this game, even though their offensive starters rest in the second half every week of the season. They decided to rest them, and what happened? Well, they got, bit in the ass for it. They lost the game. They were in control, up 17-10, but the Commanders scored 2 unanswered touchdowns. Tanner Mckee started. He played well in the first half. Okay, so-and-so. He threw an interception, but he was fine for the most part. He was moving the ball downfield. There was 2 separate occasions where the Eagles had the ball at the 1-yard line, and they managed to score a grand total of 0 points from both of those drives. And in the second half, he was pretty bad. But, I'm not going to put this game on Tanner Mckee. He's a backup for a reason. I think he could be a good starter in this league. But, I'm not mad at Tanner Mckee, all right? I'm mad at Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo for just being gigantic idiots. 2nd and 10, 2nd and long, 2nd and 21. There was an instance in this game they're running the ball. Granted, they have backups in. There's still plays where people aren't open. Tanner Mckee has to abandon a clean pocket. Another thing people say was only a Jalen Hurts thing, and that was his issue. We'll get to that aspect of this. And they just blew a gigantic opportunity. I mean, don't get me wrong. This team isn't going anywhere this year. They'll probably beat the 49ers next week, and then they'll go on the road and lose to another team that they're better than, but they will lose to because the coach is a gigantic idiot that deserves to be fired. Now, all that being said, I'm glad that this game exposed the fact that this isn't on the quarterback. And don't get me wrong, I've said this plenty of times. Jalen Hurts isn't the perfect quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback or whatever. But this idea that the Eagles' offense was so stunted because of his limitations was always ridiculous. Now, granted, credit to Tanner Mckee, I guess. He threw for more than 0 yards in the second half, which was more than Jalen Hurts could say. But that was never Jalen Hurts' fault. That was the fault of the offensive coaching staff. And you saw that again today. I mean, the route combinations were terrible. They were still late getting to the line at times. They ran when they should have passed. They passed when they should have ran. It was just a ridiculous, all-around execution-wise. The defense was terrible, but we know the defense is terrible without the starters. I'm not going to blame Vic Fangio. His unit has been great all year. But this just goes to show you that the whole... the reason they don't throw over the middle is because of Jalen Hurts. Well, Tanner Mckee had an interception over the middle, and what happened after that? They barely let him throw the ball over the middle. The plays looked exactly the same, about the same amount of effectiveness. Tanner Mckee was playing with backups, but the Commanders' defense is pretty much backups. The only thing you could say was maybe better this week compared to some of the other weeks was the running game, and that's probably because... Tank Bigsby runs a little bit harder than Saquon and isn't too fidgety behind the line, but mostly because Cam Jurgens wasn't playing at center and getting blown up in the backfield. So that was about it. But ultimately, this was just a pathetic game for Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. And I'm sure they got the okay from, or maybe even, not even okay, maybe they got direction from Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman to sit the starters. But this is just a pathetic look when you basically concede this game. And I said it all week. I don't know why everyone's acting like it's impossible for Detroit to beat the Bears. Detroit has a higher point differential than the Bears. They grid out pretty evenly in all advanced stats, traditional stats. I understand the Lions aren't making the playoffs and the Bears are, but it's not like the Bears are some, world beater and the Lions are like the Raiders. The Lions don't really care about draft positioning. And they won the game. They almost blew it, but they won. And in the end, the Eagles blew it. And it's just another example of Nick Sirianni and this offense and this offensive coaching staff shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know. I'm actually glad this game happened because it just exposed what an idiot he is. But I've been saying that all year. And if he's been exposed as an idiot all year, what is one more game going to do? Like, if we lose in the playoffs, is anything going to happen? Oh, great. Kevin Patullo will be hired, and some other idiot will be brought in. And even if he's not an idiot like Kellen Moore, who was a good offensive coordinator, he'll be handcuffed because he has to run Nick Sirianni's cowardly offense. let's just tell it how it is. The Eagles thought this year that they were going to be able to run down people's throat and they were going to be able to run hitch routes 80% of the time, and their talent was going to out scheme everybody else. And then when it was time to kind of come up with a scheme, which they had 4 months to do, they couldn't do it. So they lost. They blew the 2 seed. They looked like idiots in the process. But all the MAGA Republicans who wanted Tanner Mckee to start all year and that Jalen Hurts was a low IQ idiot, they got their wish. So I hope that worked out well for them. And this is coming from someone who said, I think Tanner Mckee can be like a top 15 quarterback in the league. But to talk about him from all these analytical dorks that are like, well, he's actually better than Jalen. He's not. So you can shut up about that. We can close that case now at least. And now we just move on to the playoffs. We're playing the 49ers, who are pretty banged up. They were terrible. Brock Purdy was terrible in their last matchup because Trent Williams was out. Their receivers, Brandon Ayuk, I don't think has played all year. We'll get to that. I'll preview that during the week before the game and talk about how the Eagles are going to probably upset us in that game and make us depressed. But before that, I just wanted to come on and summarize this game and just really show how this game was legitimately just a microcosm of how pathetic this offensive staff has been all year and the decisions they make, and it finally caught up to them. So that's that. I'm not even mad. You just look forward to next week and see what happens at this point, but it's truly pathetic, and I hope people really open their eyes and see what's going on at this point. So the Eagles lose to the Commanders, and we get ready for the playoffs. The Eagles will play the 49ers at home. We don't know if it's on Saturday or Sunday yet. Selfishly, I want it to be on Saturday just because it's less of a wait, and they already pretty much got their bye because they rested their players, which turned out to be a great decision. But I'll preview the game during the week. For now, that's all. I'll see you guys next time. Give me a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace.